Hello, my name is Gudrun Welder. I'm a licensed naturopath, typically practicing in Ontario. And today I'm still in Montana, but I'm doing my monthly YouTube videos, which I promised myself to do. This one is about naturopaths in general. And first off, I'll start by saying that no naturopaths are the same. And there's good things about that and bad things about that. Whereas standard medical care can go kind of more by mathematics and algorithms, naturopaths go by individual patients, and we also get to be individuals as naturopaths. So there's not a great standardization. Some people really will benefit from standardization, especially in an emergency room or something like that. My brother practices emergency medicine, and I can't imagine how he would be able to practice individual medicine because you got to get things done fast and well. Uh, so everything has its benefits. But one thing you should know, everything I speak about as a naturopath could be completely different from another naturopath. But I'm still going to try to give you sort of an idea of an overview of naturopaths. I'm going to start by saying that recently a friend of mine was helping me to decorate my new office. And she sent me a lot of good ideas. And one of the ideas was this canvas that she thought was a great idea. And when I read what it said, I was pretty mortified, number one. And number two, it really gave me a window into kind of how people think of naturopaths. What it said, it was like a canvas and it had your typical like colorful leaves and flowers and feathers kind of design. And then it said, a naturopath blends nature's remedies with a sprinkle of science. They will suggest herbal teas, essential oils, and maybe a detox. They are a holistic health coach who heals with humor. It maybe didn't say something exactly like that. I went back to try to find the exact canvas, but I found a bunch of similar statements and kind of put them together from what I remembered. Anyway, for me, that is mortifying. And I do see why people are afraid to see naturopaths. If they think of us as, we're going to tell you to drink a tea and give you some essential oils to smell and think that that's going to heal you. I rarely use teas except for with children or people who need very gentle healing. I rarely use essential oils. I don't want to be at all confused with the multi-level marketing essential oils salespeople. And so I kind of stay away from that. And then a sprinkle of science was pretty patronizing for me. And we'll talk about that. And then they'll maybe suggest a detox. So detox can mean so many things. I know to most people out there right now, it means you take some milk thistle herb and then you do like a juice cleanse. And the way I treat is much deeper than that. You don't come to me to say, I need a tune-up. And if that's what you're looking for, definitely like a life coach or a multi-level marketing person who sells like things in a pyramid scheme. Those kind of people will help you because they know how to do like tune-ups if you're already good. I want to help people who actually have a problem and want to work on it and have specific problems. So the word detox is pretty broad because if I'm going to be trying to get rid of a specific toxin in your body, I'm going to have a very specific way of doing that. And it's not going to be a juice cleanse. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to start off saying I know what a lot of people think about naturopaths, and it's really not who I am and not any of the naturopaths I know. Now, that being said, like I said, all naturopaths are different. So some naturopaths might do their whole practice on essential oils. I don't know many of them that do that, or teas. Teas would be more like something that maybe a herbalist would be focusing on. At naturopaths, we are meant to understand kind of all of the modalities and be able to pick the best one for you. And when I'm dealing with very real diagnoses and very real health conditions, essential oils are not going to do the job. Okay. Or will teas usually. Though, like I said, sometimes I will use those on people who need more subtle medicine or children, because they do work very well on younger patients. All right. So let's start with how they like to say naturopaths use a sprinkle of science. I would highly disagree with that. I would say we don't really need to get into the definition of what science is, but if we're looking for like a logical way to look at what gets people better, we definitely do that. We definitely look at a lot of research papers. And it's true, many of us aren't looking at the randomized double-blind clinical trials paid for by pharmaceutical companies who are going to make a lot of money off of specific drugs. But there's definitely all sorts of very good research done on herbs and lifestyle modifications. And I am constantly looking at that research. And I will say a lot of the research I'm seeing, you see the doctors, like the standard medical care, will incorporate it about 10 years later. And so I'm not even really allowed to say anything like we are banned from saying that we can focus more on, we can say we can focus on things, but we are banned from saying anything like we understand more science than a medical practitioner. However, this is what I see over and over is the naturopaths will be talking about something, and then about 10 years later, the medical doctors will adopt the same thing that we are talking about. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to even talk about the history of what science-based or evidence-based means. And another reason I'm bringing this up is I still get patients who come to see me. I'm not sure why. I think maybe they know that they're not getting the help from their standard medical practitioner, but they also, I'll put a whole plan together for them. I will explain all of the science behind it. And then I still have patients telling me, I'm not going to follow what you do because I'm a science girly or something along those lines. So this is part of why I'm talking about this. So if we want to look at really at where evidence-based or science-based those terms come from, in my opinion, they really started with the Flexner report in 1910, which was a philanthropic kind of movement by the Carnegie Foundation. And they had this gentleman, I forget his first name, but his last name was Flexner. And he basically assessed all of the medical schools in America in the beginning of the 1900s. And he was the one that kind of started pushing, we need science-based, we need evidence-based, we need to do things in a specific way. He was also the one who basically pushed all minorities out of medicine, women, indigenous, Native American, and Black people. So after he did his assessment and kind of supposedly through this philanthropic benefit, I will again say my opinion of some of these philanthropic movements maybe aren't so much about helping people, but more as a bid for power. That's how I see that went down. Because when Flexner and the Carnegies were done with this report, um, basically almost all of the medical schools that had any minorities in them were shut down. The report said things like Black people should focus more on hygiene and shouldn't do surgery, like focus on their own hygiene instead of surgery. Like very uh, horrible things were said in this report. And to this day, we still are riding off the coattails of this is supposedly what science is. So you can tell I have a little bit of anger around how we built our whole structure of what we have today based off of what was couched in the terms medical, evidence-based, that sort of thing. And I think another level of why I feel upset about it is because the naturopaths back then were the ones who we said, okay, everybody else who got kicked out of medicine, we're all going to come together and we're going to create our own thing. And it was very accepting. And before the Flexner report, a doctor was a doctor. And if they learned something from the indigenous people in the area, or if they carried something from their, um, the place that they grew up in, everything was kind of allowed to be used and people learned from each other and respected each other. Then the Flexner report came along and it was basically like, all white people, evidence-based medicine is the only way to go, and the rest of you are kind of on the outs. So then everybody that got kicked out, we were naturopaths and we supported each other. And now what I'm seeing is all of that gain that we've made as naturopaths to educate the community about things that I will talk about later, but mostly just the importance of natural things helping us. It's being now those same people are calling themselves functional medicine practitioners and then claiming things like they discovered the gut brain connection. I love Mark Hyman. He's amazing. I'm so glad that he is a medical doctor who understands what naturopaths have been pushing for more than 100 years. However, he still believes that he discovered the gut-brain connection, whereas naturopaths have been talking about this for at least 80, 90 years. At the same time, I'm so glad somebody like Mark Hyman sees that his type of scientific evidence-based medicine was not getting people to where they need to be, and he started to study our way of things. And so I'm grateful that he is sharing what he needs to share. Okay, sorry, let me go back to my notes here. I'm getting a little lost because I feel passionate about this. And I wanted to say, even within the naturopathic community, there are plenty of naturopaths who also want to separate themselves from other naturopaths, and they call themselves, we're the evidence-based naturopaths. And of course, there's a lot of division within naturopathic medicine. I am the type who would be more of like a classic naturopath. Therefore, I believe that naturopaths have always been amazing in what they're doing. The newer naturopaths, they will separate themselves sometimes, some of the newer ones, and they will say, old naturopaths were not evidence-based enough, and they really want to be kind of approved by the standard medical system. and no hate on them for that. But I am the type who I already believe I use a lot of science and evidence based, so I don't feel like I have to slam on all of the past that I'm already learning from. Um, and then even like within Ontario, we have the right to get our prescribing rights or not. I have chosen not to get my prescribing rights, and that means if you choose to go to further study and get your prescribing rights, then you can prescribe certain pharmaceuticals. I personally feel that we can do plenty without the pharmaceuticals, but the beauty of naturopathy is that there are some in our group who feel strongly that they really need to prescribe pharmaceuticals and some that don't. And we still find ways to get along. I know there's also that kind of a split in the medical community. Like, I will acknowledge also in the standard medical community, there is a whole movement of an anti-prescribing movement. And so those people within standard medical would be more closer to naturopaths than maybe in all levels of naturopathy, standard medicine, there's people on spectrums who have different perspectives. Me personally, I'm kind of the believer in honoring the past of what naturopathy is and not trying to change it more into what the medical establishment is. Okay, back to my notes. Sorry. Okay, and yeah, so I might be called like a classic naturopath, and then um, the the we who are more of the classic naturopaths might call the naturopaths who say we are not evidence-based enough. We might call somebody like that a green allopath, um, because we would believe that they're a little bit too focused on only finding research papers and then not really looking at the whole picture of what people need to heal. Okay. I think I'm coming somewhere close. Oh, another thing that I would like to explain about what the Flexner report did. It really pushed pharmaceutical medicine, and part of what made pharmaceutical medicine at that point was including petroleum in almost all medicines. So that was in oral or topical. And petroleum, obviously, I mean, most of us understand that's not something that would be good for us. I'm not sure how or why they felt that was so important to include petroleum in everything. I still have plenty of patients on pharmaceutical medications that can react to some of the ingredients that they put in the pharmaceutical products. I do feel that I have some intimate knowledge of how well petroleum products work, because for a long time I've been making an ointment, and I make it out of all natural things like beeswax oil. I use antimicrobials. I use essential oil in that, but not as a way to heal, but because lavender essential oil is a very, very good antimicrobial. In standard medical care, the options are Neosporin if you're looking for something to heal a cut or a burn or a wound, an open wound. Over and over and over, I've seen that when you try to heal yourself with a topical petroleum product, like a topical substance that has petroleum product in it, people don't heal. They will go back to their doctor with cuts or wounds that are not healing for years. Sometimes they ask their doctor, could I try this ointment that Gudrun has suggested? The doctors say, don't you dare, I don't know what's in that. And reliably, when the doctors finally give up on them and they use something natural without the petroleum products in it, they will heal rapidly. I've seen that over and over and over. So it really, to me, it's confusing. Why does evidence-based mean we put petroleum in everything that we use topically or eat. It doesn't seem like that's helpful. And I see it over and over, at least with the topical creams. If you can just make it out of something natural, it's going to work so much better. So yeah, the addition of petroleum to everything really makes me question if that was the right direction we were going in as far as what science means. Okay, and then yeah, I just have a few more notes about functional medicine practitioners. I did a little bit of research and I found that they believe that they also discovered the theory of treating the root cause. That's a tough one for me to hear. We've been talking about curing the root cause for way longer than 10 years ago. So again, it feels like this kind of appropriation situation that's happening from the medical establishment. Definitely, they did not discover the idea of healing the root cause. This is a key tenet of naturopathic medicine that's been happening for over 100 years. Another thing that is kind of new and everybody's talking about would be these ice baths or hydrotherapy. And I know like Wim Hof is big on that, and a lot of people are, again, talking about how they discovered it. Benedict Lust, who was one of the first naturopaths in 1902, was one of the real first people to use hydrotherapy, hot and cold water, as a healing technique. Why does this even matter? It's fine. I guess why it matters is so many people think of naturopaths as these whimsical weirdos that don't follow the science. And the truth is, we have been the ones trying to follow the true science and be inclusive of everybody who got kicked out of the Flexner report. We've always been inclusive and tried to figure out a way for there to be a way for all of us to share our different knowledge and respect each other and our different knowledge. And then the Flexner report came in and said basically only white people, men who have a lot of money and want to prescribe petroleum should be the real doctors. And now those very instincts are trying to claim that they discovered or invented all of these things that for thousands of years the rest of us have known and have shared and have respected each other and appreciated for a long time. I won't even start to go into how many pharmaceuticals are based off of natural products. But there's a lot to say here, and maybe I'll just shut myself off. Basically, I wanted to record this video so that I can give it to people who want to see who I am as a naturopath, and maybe those who want to have more understanding about naturopathy in general. Let me see if I went through all my notes. I did. Thank you so much for anybody who listens to me, and I appreciate your time.